What we're trying to do in this video is highlight what your rights are when it comes to receivers.
What situation do you find yourselves here today then?
We just want them not to be trespassing. You still haven't shown us a court order.
I've seen the order and you're refusing to accept it.
No, Mr. Lowe, we haven't seen a signed court order.
I have put somebody already in prison, right?
In this particular case, Mr. Jerry Burns had a business here in Navan, got into difficulty with the banks. He looked for several meetings with the bank to try and come to some resolution with the bank. That wasn't forthcoming, and when he requested documents, all of a sudden the heavy arm tactic of the bank was to put in the receivers. So the receiver moved into the premises, unknown to Jerry, changed the locks and put security men inside and outside the shop. And remember, this is only a small business with one employee. Jerry came to me and asked what he could do. So I said to Jerry, was he aware that the that the receiver works as an agent for Jerry? This was an absolute surprise for Jerry. He thought the receiver worked for the bank. I said, look, Jerry, the best thing we can do is send him a set of questions to see is he performing on his duty of care to you. There's only about 20 questions on it, and it's really questions that he should have been able to answer if he performed on a duty of care to the business owner. He refused to answer any of the questions. Now, they were very simple questions. I mean, the first question I do remember was, do you have a duty of care to me? I mean, even to not answer that proves he wasn't acting on it. But there was other questions which would be much more serious, in the sense that, did you see a signed contract between the bank and Jerry Burns? Because it's only on the signed contract where the receiver can move in. I mean, that's what's known as the tripartite agreement. Well, if the mortgage deed has been sold or securitised on, as is the nature of banks doing this for the last 10 to 15 years, then they've lost the power to appoint a receiver. You know, a lot of these receivers are very arrogant and think that the law is on their side. And in a lot of cases, you know, the courts are on their side. Doesn't mean the law is, though. So he didn't answer any questions, so we then done up a trespass notice and a notice to him to say he was now removed of his position as agent. When we went down to the shop, the security men were there and we entered the premises. There was a little bit of tussling with me and the security guy, not much handbags at noon. But basically, we showed him the documentation that was served on the receiver.
You showed us the papers. These are trespassing.
And it was suggested we all leave the shop, so we left the shop. And then we clearly showed them outside that the receiver was removed from his position as receiver. And that he was trespassing, and so were the security and agents of his.
You know, his secured possession, it's the authority to do that. You know,
he doesn't. I tell you why, because under the Conveyancing Act, the receiver acts as an agent for the owner. Okay, and he has fired him, so he's able to do that. And he's fired, and we gave him the notice of fired, so now you're trespassing. And that's where we stand.
Okay.
You are aware there's no court orders, right?
There is no court order.
Yeah.
But they don't want to bring me the court. Because they know if they bring me the court, they're in big trouble. I'm happy to go to court. And I'm happy to go and meet them. And I wanted to meet them last Tuesday and Wednesday.
Right, okay.
Right? And they couldn't get a meeting room in Tala for me in their building.
Right, okay.
Right? And I said, well, I'll do it on Thursday morning for you.
Yeah.
No.
When the Gardaí arrived, everything had calmed down. The security guys were nice guys, in fairness to them. Like, he's in dispute with the bank, so the amounts are being disputed with him. They have the option to go to court if they wish, but you see here where he's fired as he's allowed to.
What situation do you find yourselves here today then?
We just want them not to be trespassing. He just wants, if they want to take court orders, to go ahead and do that. They're well entitled to do that.
To me, offhand, the matter appears civil.
Yeah, of course, it's civil, absolutely.
Unless it's a criminal allegation related.
The guards made it very clear that it was a civil matter then, and that had nothing to do with them. So we were happy enough to remain a civil matter, and we basically changed the locks back and gave possession of the shop back to Jerry.
So where do we move from here?
Ring the locksmith.
Yeah, you've taken possession, so you've taken possession.
So I ring the locksmith.
Yeah. And
a few weeks later then, Jerry got notification that he was summoned to the High Court. And when we got to the High Court, I went as a Mackenzie friend for Jerry, which means I can help him in the court. The barrister for the bank, for the receiver, stood up and basically said, Your Honour, this will only take 5 minutes. And then kind of giggled to the judge to say, guess what they done, Judge? They sacked the receiver. And the judge giggled. And then, of course, when we said why we did it, because he didn't perform a duty of care, then all giggling stopped, because we're not going to be messed around here. And so it's our lawful right to fire anyone who acts as an agent for us or for Jerry if they don't perform on a duty of care. I mean, we raised the point of law, and I think this set a precedent in the High Court, because the court case actually stopped. The judge didn't know the answer. The barrister didn't know the answer. Now it looks like we were the ones giggling. They had to ask for a law book to be brought to the court. Now this is the sort of farcical situation you have with lay litigants in the courtroom, right? So when the case resumed, it went on for 2 hours, and then it was adjourned for 2 hours. And she said she would give a ruling when we came back after 2 hours. So we said, fair enough. And when we came back, she said she found in favour of the receiver, wouldn't say why, and said that she wouldn't be giving her reasons for another 3 weeks, and then she would give it in writing only. Now this is extraordinary, because we're lay litigants who deserve the right to know why a man's business will be taken. And the mere fact is, they couldn't think of any reason. That's the real reason. They couldn't think of any reason. Because when we actually read the judgment was going on about a tri-party agreement. We haven't seen any tri-party agreement. The other side never mentioned the tri-party agreement. This was here on a mere breach of duty of care. They never addressed it in the court, and this was their get-out-of-jail card. The judge couldn't allow us to be right, because this would be mayhem as far as they're concerned. You would have every receiver in the country being sacked. So they can't allow that to happen. So there's no justice in commercial courts. Commercial courts are about keeping commerce moving. Well, the ruling of the court may be legal, because legal has to do with acts and statutes, but it's not lawful. You cannot force an agent on a human being who the agent does not perform a duty of care. You cannot enslave him. He got rid of that agent, as he's lawfully allowed to do. And it doesn't matter really what the act or statute says. You cannot force someone on you where you're responsible for his transgressions. I mean, you're responsible for anything he does wrong, and you feel he doesn't perform a duty of care to you, and you still can't get rid of him. Here, this is very like if a court was forcing a dentist on you. You couldn't pick the dentist, they're going to force one on you. And, you know, you're responsible for any damage he does to you, okay? So before he actually starts drilling, you just want to ask a few questions like, is he qualified? Where did he qualify from? Is the tools he's using sterile? You know, these sort of questions. And the court basically saying, no, sorry, you can't ask any of these questions. We're forcing this dentist on you. It's a crazy scenario. It was an absolute assumption on the judge's behalf to assume there was a tripartite agreement. The other side never mentioned this in court. Remember, the court case was all about a duty of care. And we showed case from Medford versus Blake, which went to the High Court and then to the Supreme Court, which decided receivers do have a duty of care and good faith, an equitable one. So, you know, there was no issue then. There was nothing about contracts or tripartite agreements mentioned. She just assumed this, and this was her get-out-of-jail card. Because remember, we had these absolutely boxed in court. So roll on early May. Jerry then gets a letter from the receiver to say he'll be out in the next day or two to take back the premises again and change the locks. So we decided we'd wait for him. So when he arrives, we question him. Yes.
Huh?
You still haven't seen the order?
I've seen the order.
We didn't see it. No.
I'm going back to court because you're in contempt.
That's okay.
Any sign to see the order yet? You still haven't shown us a court order.
I've seen the order and you're refusing to accept it.
No, Mr. Lowe. We haven't seen a signed court order, and you know the law very well, so you're doing this. You're doing this dirty job often enough.
I'm not doing a dirty job.
Yeah, you are for Danske Bank, doing the dirty job for Danske Bank, and this will be on YouTube. Danske Bank. But his whole demeanour was, you know, how dare you basically question this? I mean, like, a court has allowed this to happen, so it must be all lawful. And, like, they're so brainwashed and blinkered into this, you know, that nobody has rights anymore once some commercial court says so. That's a nonsense. And the guy, because he was being questioned, you could see he was so uneasy because he'd never been questioned before.
I've been refused access to the building. Game over. I'm going back to the High Court.
And
Have a good day, guys.
do you think the guard... Wait for the police, mister. Wait for the guards.
Jerry,
The guards are coming.
Jerry, I have put somebody already in prison, right? Because they broke the law.
You have? And how have you got that power? Where did you get that power, Mr. Lowe? Mr. Lowe, where did you get that power?
No signed order.
Mr. Lowe, where did you get that power? I mean, what a thing to say. How could he put anyone in jail? You know, the guy just thought he was God Almighty with all this power he was coming with. Mr. Lowe, if what you're doing is correct, come out and talk to us.
Okay, we'll wait till the guards come out then.
Because the judges know it's not correct, and that's why they're not signing the orders, Mr. Lowe. Are you aware of that?
Are you going to go in?
Yes. Tell him to come out.
Would you not wait till the guards arrive?
Guards
Making
come.
this
We'll
very
wait till the guards come.
dangerous.
We'll wait
Jerry,
till the
get him out.
guards
Mr. Lowe,
Jerry, get him out.
that's very threatening, Mr. Lowe. That's very threatening.
Signed court order by Judge Lafoy.
I have the signed written judgment by Judge Lafoy.
Where
and
is
I
no
have
the court
I
order?
also have
Court
the,
order.
I have
Where
the
is
signed
the
order
court order?
by the registrar of the
Show
High
it
Court.
then. Show the court order.
Representative.
Show the court order that you have.
Show the court order.
Right.
Show the sign.
Let's have a look.
Now, you can see it's signed by the register.
The court order wasn't valid either, because a court order is supposed to be signed by the judge, sealed by the court and delivered. So that's your signed, sealed and delivered. It was signed by an entity. It wasn't signed in blue ink, so we don't know if it was a copy and paste from a computer. The name typed in was P. Healy, but that was not the signature. P. Healy was a registrar, and registrars in the High Court are merely civil servants. Who is that signature? Who is that?
That's the court register.
But who is it? What is that signature
It's not
there?
signed by Judge.
P. Healy.
P. Healy. Who's P. Healy?
He's the court registrar of the High Court.
So he's only a civil servant. He doesn't have the authority to make them orders.
How you doing?
Let the judge make the order, and if the judge thinks it's legal and lawful what she's doing, let her sign it. If she thinks she's to stand over what she's doing, and you think it's correct, well then sign the order. The judge's signature was on it nowhere, so it wasn't a valid court order. But even if it had been signed by the judge, remember, the judge does not have the jurisdiction to force an agent on you if they do not perform a duty of care to you and you're responsible for their transgressions. Because if they were to force that on you, that would be against your human rights. Mr. Lowe, you've been known to be doing this before and you know the orders aren't incorrect.
I'm getting the notification that I'm ringing the guards.
That's okay, so
for
they're already
illegal
coming.
trespass.
No, it's you that has illegal trespass.
Is it unlawful or illegal, Mr. Lowe, and do you know? Mr. Lowe, you're a long time at
You're an
this
expert.
business.
You're in the High Court a lot, sir.
I
Ben.
am,
You
that's
know,
right.
You know all
And
about it,
yeah, but the
Next
only thing
person
is
here.
I'm there for righteousness, you're there
Hi,
for
Fergus
unlawfulness.
Lowe here. I have a problem here that I have a trespasser in the building and he's locked me out. And I have a High Court order.
Not signed. Not
You don't have a
signed.
valid court
I
order.
need a squad car down here to get this man out of the building. Well, how do I get him out of the building? Oh yeah, that's fine. Hey, 5 minutes, just be a witness and then game over. That's fine. Thanks.
Game over, Mr. Lowe. Huh? It's all a game.
It's not a game.
It's all a game.
Not
The
a game.
game's over.
It's not a game.
You're under the impression the judges and the courts work for you, Mr. Lowe. Why would you be under that impression? We're aware you put people in jail before, Mr. Lowe, as you said. How did you put anyone in jail? Could you tell us, explain
I
that?
do in contempt of court.
Right,
At the
contempt of your
moment-
court, is
At
it?
the moment, Mr. Burns.
And
is
how
in
are you
contempt
making?
of
But
court.
why are you making that decision? Is that not for a judge to make?
Signed court order.
Is that not a decision for a judge to make?
And indeed it is.
Right, and why are you making that decision now?
Because I know what the order says,
All right.
and he's in contempt.
And is it a signed court order?
Yes, it is.
It's a signed court order by someone who has the authority to sign the order.
Yes.
Well, so we should obey a Mr. P. Healy that we don't know who he is, and we should obey any order signed by him.
Well, I'm sure when Mr. Burns is back in the High Court, you can make that argument. okay?
Absolutely, you will. Yeah, that's
That's
not.
very clear.
Of course.
As far as you're concerned. Now, hold on, Head. This is really clear, right?
Yeah.
Your position is I do not have a valid court order.
A signed court order
Okay,
by the judge.
right,
That's
okay.
correct. Yeah.
My position is I do, right?
Okay.
We are not going to have an argument about it here. The only
correct.
person who can now clarify this is the judge
Okay.
who
Go back
and
gave
get
the
the judge
judgment.
to
Okay.
sign it.
Well, can you clarify for the camera, Mr. Lowe, who do you actually work for? Who do you work for? The receivers wouldn't be used to this getting fired. They would think that was absolutely crazy because you'll see when I questioned the receiver, he wasn't sure who he was working for. I mean, he just was sure in his eyes, that he was working for the bank.
I am in this case acting as a receiver on behalf of NIB Bank.
Okay, so you are acting as agent for them?
As a receiver, in a role of a receiver. Yeah.
I know, I understand, but you're acting as agent for them? Because under the Conveyancing Act, you're supposed to be acting for him.
I have a full duty of care to Jerry Burns. Yeah.
Oh, okay, and you've performed on that, have you?
Performing on that.
He performs the duty of care perfectly for the bank, because he does have an equitable duty of care, one for the bank as well as for the mortgagor. So he performs extremely well for the bank. And you see me question him about did he check the things I'm looking for, like signed contracts and stuff like that. You're performing on that. Okay.
No question about it.
Okay, and what did you do to perform on the duty of care?
Mr. Gilroy, this is going over.
Well, tell us what you've done.
Is that the answer?
I'm going to take the building. Right?
You're going to take it?
Yes, I'm going to take
You're going to take this building. That will be extraordinary to watch this on video. You're going to take this, and where are you going to put it?
I've secured possession. I'm going to secure the rent, and I'm going to pay the rent over to NIB Bank
Okay.
in favour of the mortgages.
That's perfect. Now, I see why that would be a duty of care towards the bank. How would that perform a duty of care to Mr. Burns?
Because my duty of care is that I must always act in a professional, commercial manner in terms of the rents I might obtain and the price I might obtain for the sale of the building.
Great. But in that, but you're appointed.
That's my position.
Just because a bank appoints you doesn't mean that's a valid appointment. There has to be certain things in place, like a mortgage deed. I asked him, did he see the original mortgage deed? Yeah, but you're appointed under the mortgage deed. Did you see the original mortgage deed?
Excuse me here, right? Do you know what the judge said?
He didn't answer. Clearly by his non-answering of these questions, he didn't see a valid mortgage deed. I asked him, did he see a signed contract? Again, he didn't see them because he's never been questioned about these things before. And if he was to ask these questions, he wouldn't be working as a receiver. That's the straight truth. Any receiver who asks these questions of a bank will not be appointed again.
Do you know what the judge said?
I understand.
Do you know what
Yeah.
he can't affect my appointment.
Yeah, that's correct.
B, he can't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And C, he can't dismiss me.
That's correct. Okay.
So now that is
Correct.
the end of this conversation.
Okay, but the only thing, Mr. Lowe, what you forgot to mention is the judge also said there was a tri-party agreement. Could we have a look at that? Any chance of getting a look at the tri-party agreement with Danske Bank?
It's in the judgment.
With Danske Bank, your old friends? No?
See you in High Court, guys.
Yeah, no problem. See you there. Do you not think that that's important to at least afford us the same right?
Ben,
Yeah.
will you send me a copy of that recording?
What's that?
Will you send me a copy?
Absolutely.
Listen,
send us a copy of what you
I
recorded?
think the only person who can answer the questions now is the judge. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to answer.
No, but I'm only asking, did you see the signed contract that you were asked? I mean, you're here performing on it. So as a duty of care to Mr. Burns, surely you should have at least seen the signed copy of the contract that the judge was talking about. Because you and your barristers gave the judge the impression there was a signed contract. Did you see that?
I'm going to let the judge decide this.
No, well, she's already decided there was a tri-party agreement. You gave her the impression. I mean, she only has to make a decision there and then.
In order to name you, can I have your date of birth and your full address?
You keep thinking you're the police, Mr. Lowe.
No, would they like me? I'd like to be able to call you.
Can I have your date of birth?
Yeah, do you want it?
No, not really. I think it's a ridiculous. No, I tell you what you should have
I
been.
want to say that I met Dane Gilroy, who told me this is where he resides and here's his date of birth, so I know who you are.
But sure, everyone knows who I am. Don't be worried about me. And everybody will know who you are, Mr. Lowe.
Oh, yeah, well,
but
you-
I'm
well, you
asking
do.
for a man who likes information.
You have a card.
If you were,
You have a business card.
you're a good man to ask questions.
Well,
You should have asked a few for Jerry. Did you ask, was this a signed contract between Danske Bank and him? Did you ask that? Wouldn't you think that would be important in your duty of care to at least find out that what you're doing is lawful? But tell me this, just on the question, did you see the signed contract?
Did you ask for a signed contract?
Did you ask for it even? At least tell me you asked for it in your performance of your duty. Did you ask?
You seem to just brush the laws aside when it suits you and impose your own laws.
Yeah. I mean, you think that'd be reasonable to sign contract, wouldn't you? Of course you would. I know you would.
gave you my answer. My final answer is Judge Laffoy will decide on the behaviour today.
I'm not asking you about the behaviour today, but sure, I'm out in a public place asking you questions. Miss Laffoy does not have the authority to stop me being out in public, I'm afraid, Mr. Lowe, no matter what power you think they have. I'm afraid Mr. Gilroy has every right to be walking on this lane the same way as you. I haven't prevented you doing your business, I'm only asking you questions. And I'm asking you, did you see a signed contract? You don't want to say, it's not a disaster, like you're here doing a job as a professional, and you won't answer a question, a simple question like, did you see a signed contract between Danske Bank and the man now you're taking his property and livelihood off? You're out taking people's livelihood and you haven't seen a signed contract, Mr. Lowe. Do you not find that extraordinary? I do ask him, if he had asked these questions to the bank, would that seem impertinent? And it might hinder future appointments from the bank. And of course, that's a fact. I mean, we're all in business. We know that that's a fact. So they're basically just perform no duty of care to the mortgagor, and they just basically act for the bank. Mr. Lowe, would it be fair to say to ask for a contract from the bank might hinder future appointments for you? Is that why you didn't ask for the contracts, Mr. Lowe? That if you were to ask the bank, it would be seen as impertinent and you mightn't get so many more jobs from the bank. Would that be a fair comment? Mr. Lowe, would that be a fair comment? Would that be a fair comment? That you can't even be seen to ask the bank for anything? That you wouldn't ask them for a signed contract or anything like that? I mean, you're trying to trick the judge into believing there was a tri-party agreement signed because she said it in her judgment. And I'm just wondering, did you actually see it, or would you have even asked for it? The moral of the story is, stand up for your rights. Check that the receivers have an equitable duty of care and make sure they're acting on it for you. I'm telling you, in Medford and Blake, the cases has already been decided. They have an equitable duty of care and good faith to you. So make sure they're performing on it. Make sure they're taking care of you as well. And that's really the message. And don't be afraid of court orders coming or anything like that. If they're not signed, they may as well be bringing toilet paper. I believe, like, as a country, folks, we need to wake up what's going on. Like, these banks have the courts clogged up with cases every day of the week, repossessing homes and businesses. And it's time to stand up. Remember, this is a banking problem. The bankers were bailed out, and it's time for people to start standing up for their rights because the government's not doing it for you. So, you really need to stand up for your own rights, and don't be afraid. You have rights. Stand up for them.
And there's more. If you thought the video Constitution Halts Sheriff was eye-opening, then prepare to be truly enraged and disgusted. Since the making of that first video, Ben Gilroy has become an accidental national hero, but unfortunately he has also opened the floodgates of cries for help and uncovered a terrifying tsunami of corruption and cover-ups. We can now reveal that Ben and his newly renamed organisation, People for Economic Justice, is about to expose an institutional cartel of collective corruption so insidious that it will rock the state to its foundation, and most importantly, it will educate and empower you, the people, by giving you the truth. We have already begun work on a landmark feature-length documentary that we promise will wake you up. No members of People for Economic Justice are being paid fees, nor are the participants or the production crew from revolutionbydigital.com. That's why we need your help. If you want to help us reveal the truth, then we ask you to kindly donate now what you can towards the completion of this documentary. We really cannot do this without you, so please donate now.